Welcome, everyone. I am Grace Chin, General Manager with Ruby Slippers Theatre, and here with us today, we're very proud to have Sereana Malani, who is a Vancouver-based actor, teacher, writer, and mother. Hi, welcome.
Hello.
Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge that we are zooming in from the unceded territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh. Sereana, is there anything that you'd like to add to that?
My only addition would be that I am very aware of my privilege as a settler, and it's magnified by my experience as an immigrant, but an immigrant settler, and that I'm a guest. I'm a guest here, so thank you.
Yeah, so Sereana, you have a BFA in acting from University of Alberta, and you were born and raised in Coquitlam.
Well, I was born in Fiji.
Oh, oh, right, yes, you're born in the Fiji Islands and
in Coquitlam, yeah.
And raised in Coquitlam. I'm so sorry, my mistake. And you have been working professionally since 2012?
2012, yes.
Yeah, and Ruby Slippers was so happy to have you as part of the West Coast English language premiere of You Will Remember Me by Francois Archambault. Yeah, first it was at the Culture, I think, in 2015. Yeah. And then Gateway, it was remounted at Gateway Theatre in Richmond in 2017, I think. Yeah, I know. Like time has this weird habit of flying by.
Absolutely. When you said 2015, I was like, yes, that's correct. 2015.
Like, wow, right? And now we are in #COVID life. And just last year, you were in, I believe, the all-femme premiere production of Classic Chic's like Much Ado About Nothing as part of the Culture Femme series. And you played, let me just consult my notes, you played Abigail in the world premiere of Gross Misconduct by Megan Gardner at Gateway. Yeah. Looking back at your experience as a professional performer, as well as your training as part of your BFA, and I'm not sure what your teaching specialty is, but if you look back at all those experiences, in terms of lived experience of racism, is there anything that you'd like to share?
It's obviously it can be a broad subject in the way that it impacts our lives and our work, and at the same time, it is also very deeply personal and specific, the impact of racism and prejudice, and specifically anti-Blackness in our society, which absolutely impacts our culture and our industry. And now I'm speaking of our theater industry. So my experience with in my career has primarily been in theater, and primarily in Western Canada. So everything that I'm speaking about and where I'm speaking from is coming from that experience, right? My own lived experience, and also things that I've witnessed. So it impacts us all. It hurts us all, whether you are Black, Indigenous, POC or not. It impacts us all and hurts us all. I think that Canadian theater is behind the rest of the world in terms of diversity in casting, equity, having BIPOC leaders in our industry, and I believe to bring that point home, that specifically the theater industry here in Vancouver is woefully behind, woefully behind. And, you know, there, as I said, professionally, I've been on the scene for 8 years, but I have, you know, from when I was in middle school and high school, I was that little theater nerd, you know, so excited. We would, after school, we would take the bus, and we're coming from Coquitlam, so we'd take the bus to the VPL to read plays, you know, and to see, because our little suburban school didn't have a library like that, and you know, and we'd go to watch shows and go to Bard on the Beach, and we just were so excited. And I, looking back, I wasn't aware of it at the time, and this is what white supremacy, this is the impact that white supremacy has. Looking back, I never saw anybody who looked like me up on those stages. I never saw anybody who looked like me. And it did not, my passion and my love and my draw to acting into theater, you know, it didn't hold me back, because that's how strong my pull was, right? I never thought, oh, I don't see anyone who looks like me. It wasn't even, you know, that's how insidious white supremacy is, right? I was not even aware, especially because we did not have, you know, I have come from a mixed race family. We just didn't have the vocabulary. We didn't have those conversations. We just really didn't, right? So you accept things at face value. And so what that meant for me was, constantly consuming media and live performance and art that was centered around whiteness, right? Those were the human stories that I grew up with. And they were all, these are white stories, right? So there you go, told by white people, for white people, I guess, and the rest of us are just like happy to be included. I don't know, happy to be there.
This is the systemic nature of the beast.
Absolutely, absolutely. But like I said, it never dampened my passion, never. And so the truth is, and you know, now we're kind of taking a leap, but that's what made when I did encounter racism, when I didn't encounter my othering and my race being weaponized against me in professional spaces, that's what made it a very rude awakening. Because you know, particularly for me, the theaters where I've always felt that I belonged. You know, I belong here. And so when I encountered that othering in my home, that's what it felt like. So it was deeply violating. It was deeply violating. And I've had to, you know, there've been several incidents that have happened to me where, again, the impact of it didn't really reveal itself until a little bit later, a little bit of time has passed. But those incidents I've had to really work. It became my labor then to unpack it, you know, and then to see how do I navigate the truth of that, because the truth of it is that I work in a system that was not designed for bodies like me to fully occupy and take up space. And the truth is, what it boils down to is to be treated with inherent dignity. And that's just the truth of it. That's what happens because our industry is rooted in, built on, and held up by white supremacy. And it hurts us. Because I was, this is problematic language because it is upholding status quo, but because I was fortunate enough to have not encountered that othering, you know, to have always felt that I belonged in the spaces that I was in, you know, through high school drama, you know, the little indie plays that I may have done immediately out of high school. You know, before I went to the U of A, I did my training at Capilano University, before it was a university. That's how long ago I'm talking.
At college.
Yes, exactly. So I was never made to feel that I was anything other than I belonged. Than I belonged, that I had a right to be there. And so it wasn't until I began to work professionally that these things happened to me, that I encountered deeply problematic language and behavior and jokes, you know, the need from directors and other company members to justify casting, you know, for example, if it was myself and a white actress and we had been cast as sisters, there all of a sudden needed to be conversation about that, and that it just blew my mind. It blew my mind. And I suppose I could look at it as that being a privilege in and of itself, that up until that point I had never been othered in that way. And it was deeply, you know, it's cumulative. It was not, it was, you know, certain instances do stick out, but the overall impact, and that's the damage that racism and white supremacy and centering whiteness in our business, in our art, in our work, that's the damage that it has. It's cumulative, you know. Yeah, and it's insidious.
That's for sure. Well, in terms of the intersectionality of perhaps racism and, let's say, sexism, have you found that this intersectionality has impacted you, and what experience do you have of that yourself, or what have you witnessed?
I would say that, okay, I'll start with sexism, just with sexism, not necessarily the intersection or even the specific intersection that I occupy in these settings. But I know I have been in rooms where, okay, and I am okay to be specific with this description. You know, I've been, again, fortunate enough to have had 5 seasons at Bard on the Beach Shakespeare Festival. I've had brilliant experiences there and not so brilliant experiences there. So specifically to this, the theme of sexism, I have witnessed, because we work in rep, which means that obviously that's 2 different shows under being steered by 2 different directors. And I have witnessed on more than one occasion that there is, from my certain male peers, there will be a reverence, a respect, and a quality of listening that will be endowed. The male director will be endowed with that respect and that listening. And I will witness these same peers interrupt, talk over, dismiss, you know, the notes and the thoughts and the direction coming from the female or the femme identifying director. And I have been in these rooms and I've seen it. I've seen it, and I'm just gobsmacked. And yeah, I've seen it. What can I say? So I just want to say that for many years, and then things have been magnified with the current state of the world and this massive uprising and historical civil rights movement that we're witnessing. So, but for many years, and then it's been magnified, my my deep sense of justice, and I just need to say that I'm perpetually learning. I'm continuing to unpack my own truth and to refine and build my vocabulary on systemic injustice and racism. And you know, here, here where we live, you know, I absolutely need to do much more to educate myself on, for example, the Indian Act, to educate myself on the many systemic injustices that have been thwarted upon generations and generations and generations of the Indigenous people of this land. So that's my task, right? And I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it. It's just been, the volume has been turned up as of late. But I'm all this to say that I'm still in process. I'm still refining my vocabulary, right? So that I can continue to have these conversations. And so then the next step, like away from the personal, is the professional. How can I take that knowledge and my refined vocabulary and apply it in a professional sense so that we can actively dismantle this tired, old system that is not serving us, not truly, it's not serving all of us, right? And if it's not serving all of us, it is hurting all of us.
Thoughts on what needs to fundamentally change in our industry to dismantle the systemic nature of this racism beast?
The short answer is that companies, and this stretches beyond our industry, but specifically nonprofit organizations, theater companies need to invite BIPOC artists and leaders, invite them to the table and pay them for their labor, and listen to them, listen to what they're saying, because they have been saying it for a long time. They have been saying it for a very long time. They have been coaxing and asking and demanding a seat at the table and space and funding and the right to tell their stories, you know, the right to have their bodies tell the stories on our public stages. They've been doing this. People have been out here doing this work for a very, very long time. Valerie Singh Turner, Margot Kane, Lisa Ravensburg, you know, yes, I'm not gonna embarrass myself names are mispronouncing, but there's you know, like the matriarchs out there, the people who, yeah, they have been out here for a long time. So I hope that these people get a seat at the table, and that they are paid for their labor, and that they're paid for their time, and that the leaders, the GMs, the ADs, the boards, the head of their board, that they listen, you know. Yeah, and it's work. It's going to be work. And I think what's compounding everything is the uncertainty of the times that we're in, because who even knows what the future of theater is going to look like?
That's very true. I think that that's a question which is definitely facing Canadian theater as a whole.
So what's happening right now is that I've actually just been invited to come on board for a local nonprofit to help in exactly these conversations, right? To examine past and present policies and guidelines that have maybe not been the best, even though there are the best intentions there, that they may not have always had the best outcome in terms of company culture and you know, issues with equity and diversity as such. So I will be working with them. It's a brand new position. It's a brand new world. So it is. I'm hoping that the nature of it will be collaborative. Yeah.
Yes, because there is the hiring, and then there is the work and the listening, and hopefully after that there is implementation.
Yes, absolutely. And the truth is, you know, of course we understand that we're just like, well, hopefully something's going to change. But the truth is, it must, it must change. This model that we are, that we're limping along with, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's not working, and as I said, it doesn't serve all of us. So it's got to go, and we have to work together to refine our vocabulary, refine our own understanding, unpack our own biases, examine our own blind spots. Everybody has them. I feel a lot of our white peers might be scared. They might be scared to say the wrong thing. They might be scared that they don't know how to address these problems. They don't know how to help. But I hope and I encourage our white peers to feel that fear and acknowledge that discomfort. And I don't wish to, nor could I, if I wanted to absolve you of that discomfort. It's there for a reason, and it will help you. But I think it's, all of us have to answer the call that's happening right now about the kind of world that we want to live in, the kind of world that, if you have children, that you want to leave for your children, not even leave, that's so passive. Like right now, what kind of world do you want to, do you want your children to have? And how do we do that? Okay. How do we do that? How do we create the necessary policies and guidelines that make it actionable? Because we can have as many town halls and as many petitions and open letters, and no shade whatsoever, no shade to the people who are doing that work. That is phenomenal, important work. But my fear is, and what I've seen, what I've witnessed, is that it leads to a lot of bureaucracy and noise. It leads to a lot of noise, and on top of that, it leads to a lot of hurt feelings. And that's not my that's not like a fear. I'm not saying let's not engage for fear of hurt feelings. Individually, everybody, BIPOC, white alike, your feelings are your responsibility. And that's it. And yeah, however we can learn to not center our feelings and our personal response, our personal hurt feelings, for the sake of a bigger conversation and overdue change. Yeah.
And in terms of your future, any future work that you would have, that any of us can be sure of having right now, in terms of the coming season, how would the internal work that you're doing now, how would that change how you are in that professional environment? Would you say more, say less, say things differently? We talked about the code switching. Yeah.
I would absolutely say more. I would know now, and this is something I did not know in the past when I was experiencing problematic and racist behavior from my peers in professional settings. I would know now to take my concerns to the general manager, to the AD, and to just make sure that they were aware of what was happening, under their roof. But I would absolutely speak up more. use my voice more, you know, overhearing stories that are coming out now of younger peers, especially younger Indigenous artists who have been put in situations where they were bullied and not heard and not respected and not valued. You know, I hear these stories and my mind is boggled, especially because of, you know, bystander effect. I'm wondering, why was there no one else in this room who stood up and said, this is not okay? Yeah. I believe that what we are witnessing in our world and in our culture and in our industry, I believe very much that it is a movement and that it's not a moment, and that it's not for me to accuse people of you know, being performative in their allyship, but I believe that if you care about our world, and if you care about justice, then I encourage you to continue to answer the call, to continue to show up, and that it doesn't have to look a certain way. You may not be able to show up to protests. You may not, you know, to make your signs and physically be there. You may, you know, it might look like donating to specific causes and specific artists and, you know, Black and Indigenous owned companies, you know, and artists, supporting them, educating yourself on white supremacy. I just started listening to Me and White Supremacy, but I believe it's by Layla Saad. I just started, phenomenal. Even though I haven't finished it, I recommend it to everybody. Yeah, just and also be mindful of what we're consuming during this time. I just encourage everybody to continue to show up and continue to learn as best they can. And if you need a break, take a break.
Be kind to ourselves, but also carry on.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for speaking with us.